Hey everybody, welcome to Evolution Now. This is the 27th podcast. I'm your host, Damien Chinappi, alongside JJ Wolf. Our guest today is a TEDx speaker. He's a writer and he's a brain cancer survivor. He's a man that knows the power, both positive and negative, of the mind. The only thing more powerful than his message is his will to survive. It's our absolute pleasure to welcome to the Evolution Now project, Kyle Miron.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you
Yeah, man.
guys.
It's good to have you here, Kyle. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time, and Evolution Now Project is a place where active lifestyle, mindfulness, creativity, all these things come together where we talk about what does it mean to evolve as a human being. So, jumping right into it, what role actually, Damien, why don't you kick it off?
Oh, cool. Absolutely. So, you've crafted your mind as your greatest weapon, Kyle. Can you remember an event that triggered you to take control of your mind? Obviously, you have the big thing we're going to talk about, the brain cancer, but was there something before that early on in your life that really went, I got to master this thing?
Oh, man. Well, that's a great question. But first of all, I gotta hype you guys up first. When I first heard about Evolution Now and the main tagline was get messy, get better. Life is fucking messy. And when you understand that right away at an early age, you're able to kind of navigate and clean as you go type of thing. So I believe at an early age, I started understanding that I was a little more unique or just a little peculiar, even just navigating life. And I caught myself kind of berating myself or thinking bad about myself. And it wasn't until I started playing sports that I realized that we're kind of all on a battlefield all the time. I think that never goes away. So, I mean, even in early days with soccer, I found myself with not superpowers, you'd say, but an ability to kind of read a player's mind before they did something. So I was never the best athlete, but I could always kind of see ahead a little bit, just a little bit enough to where I knew that they were going to do. So it didn't matter what star player was coming at me. I was a defender in soccer before. I'd hit them. I'd just knock them over and just throw right off their game. I know that's not like the kosher way to play sports. That was like at a young age, like you asked, from when did you know? Because that in itself, if I stop the goal, I'll take the yellow card. I mean, I still want to get the win. So I've always been a character that hates to lose in whatever it is. It, you're gonna have to do a lot to defeat me, is my persona in all of life. So that carried on through basketball when I moved on from soccer, and there was a situation where I scored 42 points in a game as a JV basketball player, but there was 1 point away from the school record. And the coach pulled me with like 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And the game ended. It was still a close game. Yeah, it was still a close game. And after it was done, my dad went down to talk to the coach in the hallway, like, hey, did Kyle do something wrong here? Did he do something that deserved to have him pulled? I'm not trying to be narcissistic, egotistical. That was one of the games where they talk about in the NBA where the rim looks like an
Pivotal
ocean.
moments, like something changed there. There was an experience that catalyzed you in some way.
I couldn't miss. It was 19 for 25, 7 3-pointers. Let's chuck it up, and it was going in type of night. And, the school record was 43, and there were 6 minutes to go. And in my dad's eyes, it's like watching the son finally, all those hours, putting it in, and he's going to have this moment, and he gets pulled. So my dad called him or talked to the coach, like, hey, and he said, well, your son's not from around here. I wasn't from the same town. I was from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'm in Michigan now.
So they didn't
So
want you to have
that
the record. They didn't want you to have the
He
record.
didn't want me to have it. And then
Oh man.
so my dad that night sat me down. I was tired still, but we stayed up all night. He's like, listen, man, or listen, son, I will not come to another basketball game if you play for that coach. You can never let anyone in this world control your ceiling, ever. And then he said, you can't be somebody's bitch, is the way that he said it. And what he did to you tonight, when he took away your ceiling, I will never go to another game. So after that, I mean, I'm crying, freaking, 15 years old, thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose all my friends, all this stuff. And sure enough, we got a hold of the neighboring school coach, and I transferred schools and played for the neighboring team. And my life has been, if I wouldn't have done that, my life wouldn't even be close to what I experienced, about just proving to myself and knowing how hard I'm willing to work for something, to not have somebody else to say, nope, sorry, that's not going to ever work for me. So
yeah, it's such a timeline shift. That reminds me of like Back to the Future, the second one or the first one, where they have to go back and make sure his dad punches out the bully so he can get with his mom, or like whatever it was. Wow.
We have these finite moments, and with the quantum physics world, that timeline where I didn't transfer is still going on. So that's fine. But I mean, with this timeline, I'll end that brief story with the next year we beat that team in overtime on their home court. And I can say that I had the worst game of my life, but my team all kicked ass for me. I mean, just dominated for me. So, but yeah, long story there. But that's when I knew the power of my mind shift. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Damien, you have any remarks there? Right on. So, wow, dude, that is it's a powerful story, and it's those pivotal moments in life that really do shape our trajectory. And it's overcoming and stepping up and taking the lesson and not accepting limitations. So I know that you're a very thoughtful person. You do things with purpose and with meaning. I know that you like to write. What role has writing played in your mental evolution?
Sure. It's played a significant role, guaranteed. I could definitely say that with confidence. Typing is great. I have ebook too, but writing it, putting pen to paper with your human energy, watching it flow, all of that is it's therapeutic. It's meditative. It's priceless to me. I still write in cursive. If any young kids know what that means or understand it, but watching that just old form of writing your thoughts down on this piece of paper that came from a tree, all these deep thoughts. I don't think about that every time I write. I mean, grab a notepad. I don't go into what type of tree this was made out of. I'm not going that deep. But I'll have it all the time. It helps me reread too. If I write that and I read it later, man, I don't know. I know that's how you were feeling, but I'm not sure if that was exactly what you meant. That type of aspect. It's been very significant, Wolf, and I feel like a lot of today's culture doesn't want to take time to read other people's life work. So it's also helped me to get my statements in a more poetic form so that it's more easily digestible instead of this long-winded mini biography that people I think are getting a little sick of reading. But yeah, very significant. I will write for the rest of my life. I'm not an expert. I don't have the record in journals, but I'm up in the 15 to 16 journals in my life. How about you? Do you write? You write a lot.
I write a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful to hear what you're saying. I like that little connection about, of writing it on this paper that came from a tree, and how people don't want to take the time to, listen to people's life wisdom. It's such a reading a book is time consuming, and it takes a lot of concentration, and it's a sad thing that it seems like reading is becoming less and less prominent in our culture. But that's also it's there's different cohorts of people, right? Like there are definitely people that read a lot, and readers are writers, and writers are readers. There's a strong correlation there. And Damien actually has been somebody that's inspired me in realms of writing. He's done a lot of screenwriting. He's also done he's written a couple books now that he's got it published coming up soon sometime. He's also emphasized the value of the rereading, which is such an important thing, going through and highlighting, circling, taking notes, and boiling it down, finding recurring themes, and finding what matters most. But I've mentioned it a few times, and I'll just take this moment to plug it again, is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron is an amazing book. There's these 12 chapters. Each chapter is for a week. You read the material. The whole book is based around morning pages, which is 3 pages of stream of consciousness. There's a statement in the great creator, I trust you to handle the quality. I'm responsible for the quantity. It's this game of, so what I'll do is like, how fast can I write 3 pages? And the first page is difficult. The second page starts, then the third page, I don't want to stop writing. It's an amazing process. And then to read back on 100 pages after a month is like, wow. And it turns on this fountain of flowing thought.
You're running a sequence. And so, I write all the time. And introspection is such a useful thing because you have to be the one to engage, but you also get to be the one who learns when you reread. As JG pointed out, I'm a big fan of writing and rereading. And, every introspection allows the individual to realize what was difficult and seemingly impossible in the beginning is actually something that's quite easy to do once you realize the beginning, middle, and the end. So one thing that I do every year, and I just completed it, is I review my entire year of journaling, and I synthesize all the lessons, the micro and macro themes of the year into a compressed document. So I just did that, and I call it, the book that I wrote is called The Change Theory. It's how you build your awareness.
Wow.
It's the vehicle of change. You build your awareness with these gears, which are thoughts that all interlock. Like get messy, get better is the first gear. That allows you to relax into the next level with a breakthrough mentality so that you have momentum, you're relaxed, and you have your mind in the right spot. So I just did the change theory. I call them personal volumes for 2023. And I started the year off like, I don't want to do this. But then as I'm just like, just look at it. And that sequence started to happen. And my subconscious is like, we've done this every year for the past 3 years. We're going again. But it's like, you have amazing things. Individuals have amazing things, and they just don't know the process of how to capture those things. Because if you write and get into that habit and it becomes a part of you, you're going to crank out some good stuff. And 2023 was a pretty not great year for me. And I'm reminded
what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean it wasn't a great year?
A bunch of things, like some things that I was working really hard on fell apart, my living situation fell apart. And so I was reminded as I went through my 2023 journal that the greatest lessons are learned in the darkest times, but you have to document them, and you have to want to look for them. Because if it's just dark times, pain, and negativity, that's what it is, versus like what's deeper than that. And that's why we asked the question, how did writing help your mental evolution? Because writing and thinking are the same thing. You're putting thoughts to paper. The more you write, you can think longer thoughts. Coming back to sequence, you can go deeper. That immediate initial negative response, pain, this sucks, let me shrink, to, okay, what's under that? How can I find some depth within myself? And so, Kyle, firsthand, those negative thoughts come and get you, and you're writing, you can get underneath them.
Yeah. To tag to the whole writing aspect, Shakespeare's play wasn't written on a keyboard. And the Bible and the Quran and Bhagavad Gita, they were written on scrolls with pen, ink, paper, the same thing. So there is a spirit realm element when you are writing that is just priceless and cosmic and universal. So you also you kind of embody whatever guides that are around you, assisting you in the. It's a ritual. I actually treat it more like a ritual, like a baptism, where I have this opportunity to put my exact presence on this piece of paper. So yeah, it's beautiful. I wouldn't be the same person if I couldn't write every day.
So, that being said, we want to get into kind of a good part of your story that's been super inspirational. So, at what point did you know something was wrong with you with the brain cancer? And do you remember the first thought you had after you received that diagnosis?
I do remember the first thought. It was in the emergency room, and I got the CT scan. And, prior to that, I had vicious migraine headaches. I had double vision, triple vision, no appetite really. It was pretty tough, but I had a food truck at the time. So I had no time to be sick, or I had to do this. I had a child and another child on the way, 8 months pregnant. So it was just, I had to push myself to that absolute limit where my organs were shutting down and I couldn't get out of bed. So my former wife brought me to the emergency room, and they put me in a smock right away because I looked like a zombie from one of the Netflix series right now, and put me in they just said, after the CT scan, they said, Mr. Miron, we found something pretty big. I said, thank God. First of all, because I was so wondering, and I mean, I did foot baths, acupuncture, massage, holistic, everything. Nothing was even remotely helping. And that's where I was more just grateful. Thank God. Because honestly, to rewind till I was 8 years old, I had a serious vision that I was going to die at the age of 32. It was something that was with me my whole life. All of my passwords were 32, my basketball number 32. And then so at 31.8, I'm sitting there in the emergency room, staring at the ceiling, ready to go into emergency brain surgery. So I was ready in many ways. I wasn't afraid. It was just more like, finally, here's the battle I've been waiting for. And so I looked over at Eliza, and again, she is a badass. She hasn't missed a day of running in 22 years. She is a baller. And she just looked at me, 8-month-old belly. She didn't have to say anything. She was just with her eyes like, we fucking got this. That type of attitude. And I just told her, all right. So went into emergency brain surgery that night. And guys, this is where God really showed up. And I mean, I don't know how anyone cannot live today without understanding that there's some sort of intelligence creator out there. So at this moment, the number one brain surgeon in the country was in Fort Wayne, Indiana at that time, from Colorado, doing a speech. And they called him up and said, would you mind doing a very difficult surgery tonight before you leave? And he said, yeah, he did. So he showed up and helped pretty much carve out this massive tumor in the lower cerebellum. And then I had 3 other tumors forming in the center of my brain. They couldn't touch those, but this big one was the one shutting down all of my balance, organs, everything. So yeah, after that, everything seemed to be all right. And then out of nowhere, all the blood and fluid built up in my brain. So I was crashing hard, and then I ended up flatlining. So they had to do a second surgery to put a brain shunt in my brain to go down to the bottom, into my stomach, so it could drain out all the fluid. To keep going with that, after that second day, I was in a very much a comatose state, and my Eliza, former wife, said that all I was whispering was "be like water," like just slowly, like "be like water, be like water." And then, after it was all said and done, and maybe a couple months later, I thought, this has to be Bruce Lee. This has to be Bruce Lee. Like, be like water, that. But after finally going in and looking at the tumor, like at 100 times in, there's the face of the devil in it, and it's smiling at me, and it's got horns, and it's just vicious, man. It's brutal. But that's what I dove into the Bible a little bit more, and it says, well, when you first hear the sound of God, it's the sound of raging rivers. And that made all of what I'm into make more sense. That, I'm an Aquarius, water, we're all baptized in water, 75% water, our bodies. So yeah, I could keep going a lot longer, but that was when I knew, and that's what happened for the result.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's heavy.
Wow.
That's
yeah.
heavy.
I'm so moved. I had to dab my eyes with a paper towel because I just had a kind of an emotional moment there. But I narrated your audiobook.
Yes, you did.
You have this beautiful
you did a
book
great
that
job.
you wrote.
Great job.
Thanks. Yeah. And it's interesting that, it's like I read it through one time, right? And so I knew a lot of that story, but the way that you just spoke about it, I was moved. And I hope you out there listening are still tuned in with us and catching a whiff of this story, because it's powerful, man. It's very, very powerful. The triumph and the overcoming and the going into a battle, knowing that you're not going to give up and you're going to do whatever it takes. It's just really, really powerful. Damien, what are your thoughts?
It's crazy. Like, the thing that jumped out to me was gratitude. And there's an idea, it's called something like conditions of initial. It has to do with how you interpret something from the moment it happens. And your first thing wasn't, oh shit, or oh fuck, or I'm dead. It was, thank God. Thank God that there's a reason for my pain. And Tony Robbins says you can't be grateful and afraid at the same time. So your gratitude overtook the fear, and then there's a courage aspect, but you at least had the courage to look at it in a positive manner. And I think that gratitude strengthens your physiology. Like, there are thoughts that make you feel strong, thoughts that make you feel weak. Obviously, fear would make you shrink, but the fact that you were like, thank God, and then you had like a loving partner look you right in the eyes, and there was that nonverbal communication. I think there's so many things that you have to play the field you're on, and you played that field to perfection. And I think it allowed you to go through that storm, first brain surgery, second brain surgery, the fact that that guy from Indiana was in town and that he was willing to come and operate on you. I mean, look, that's one hell of a story. That sounds like a pretty good script for a movie, if you ask me.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. You gonna write it for me?
Let's go.
Yeah, right. No, I said it in my TED talk, or TEDx talk. It was just, cancer never met a guy like me, and I meant it. And from the moment that I started even going into the surgery room, I just said, cancer doesn't exist here. It doesn't exist here. And I said it a million times after it. Like, thoughts are our reality. Thoughts create our future. We all know that. I've heard on your podcast. Like, if you don't put the thought out there, it's going to be somebody else's energy that's going to, change your destiny. And you can relate it to the basketball story I told you with my dad. But if you don't put a line in the sand in your own island that you're on, then someone else is going to come in and show you, it's going to. Okay, this is where my main message and with this book was to try to and command, really, that you got to take that mindset from a worrier to a warrior. Just, you have to, in that moment at least. And Nate and I actually we had a I'd say an adventurous, fun year talking about language and delivery of concepts, and balancing between efficient anger and more of a loving kindness, gratitude perspective to battling something like this, and trying to share with others, because not everyone wants to just be so angry. And again, Nate, we talked about it a lot, because it was, you did the audiobook for me. You were really in the thick of it for me. Thanks again, brother.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's about mindset, and we have a choice. There's the cliche, we always have a choice between love and fear. And I really do believe that's true. I think
It is.
when I think about, the evil forces in the world, I tend to think of them as if it's a 3-year-old with a knife running around, and they just don't know any better. And it's dangerous, right? Like, you don't want to get run into by a 3-year-old with a knife, but you're not going to, shoot the kid. No, you're going to grab a big blanket and you're just going to wrap them up, and you're going to take away the knife, give them a nice meal, and make sure they get some good rest, and tell them that you love them. And so that's how I tend to look at, it's like, we can't be mad at these people that are just, I see malicious behavior as kind of, it's like a stupidity. It's like, I feel bad for people that are bad actors in the world because they're missing out. Like, sure. I am such a happy person because I'm a loving person, sure. And because I care about the people that are around me. I care about Damien. I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to edit this podcast this week. Damien's going to not have such a good week unless he sees this podcast done on time and some social media clips going out. And also what we're doing, we're approaching episode 30, and getting this out into the world it's a great thing, because our intention really is to light people up and inspire and educate and inform and execute on our goal, which is to put more of this out into the world. So, Damien, I think you have a lot of opinions about emotional state and also perspective. Do you consider yourself a peaceful guy?
I do. Not in my head. No, my head is an ongoing war. I mean, I know that about myself. Like, you have to know your psyche. Like, I need a battle. Usually it's that inner thing of like, you suck, you're a fraud, doing all that shit. Like, you're playing at least my head is like battling the trickster who does the wrong thing at the wrong time. But you can feel like like a villain, but walk like a warrior, which is to be constrained, to be controlled, to be disciplined, to be mindful, to be stoic. I think that's a big part of self-mastery, is that not letting the feelings be being the guiding compass in your life. And so for Kyle, again, like, having a really strong will of going, I have this huge thing I got to fight. First of all, fuck you. You ain't never met anyone like me. And I love the fact that you talk about the way of water, because the thing that I wrote, the change theory, has to do with water. We are 75% water. And the fact that you're saying, what did you say after you got diagnosed? I'm going to beat this, or what were you repeating?
Cancer doesn't exist here.
So that right there, your intentionality, is that a word? Your intention and your voice. It's been proven human consciousness and the human voice can impact water molecules. And the 75% of yourself that's water, I mean, you had a strong intention, and you were grateful that you got this realization, and you just started conditioning the water molecules in your being to go, it ain't happening. I ain't the one. It's not going to be me. So that, like, subconsciously, I think you knew what to do. And I think it led to the success story that you currently are. But I'll throw that question back at you, JJ. I know you're a peaceful cat, but in your head, are you also as peaceful?
That is an interesting question. I like the way that you responded to it with it's funny. He's laughing because he doesn't like the word interesting. He thinks I didn't even hear that. I didn't hear that. Okay. I thought that's why you're laughing. No, but I can be peaceful. I have a lot of sticky notes around my apartment that say things like, I am a happy person, or I love people, like, just to remind me to be in a positive state all the way into my subconscious and unconscious, because there is that inner track. And I think it's evolutionarily beneficial to all of us. It's part of our genetics, perhaps, that and it's actually proven, there's some studies that show this, when you focus on something, like, if we're looking for problems, we're going to be in a state of fixing problems. And if we're in a state of everything's great all the time, we're not going to be fixing problems. So it's important that we do notice things that need to change. But by being positive, I think we get a lot of benefits in the way that we approach our day. And when we're optimistic, when we go into any kind of experience or any endeavor with a positive mindset, you know, we're like Damien, you said, like his cells, like the water in his body, he was already priming it with cancer doesn't exist here. Cancer never met a guy like me. So you're speaking to your cells and your body and priming them and saying, oh, we got this, you know, and it is that inner level. So to answer the question, I know I've gone in a big circle here, but I don't think I'm that peaceful on the inside all the time. I definitely, like you said, have a battle. You know, I feel like I have to have things that I'm working towards. And there is a certain amount of, like even this morning, I went for a bike ride. I woke up and just went outside and I went for a sprint on a mountain bike. And, you know, I got a sweat on as I was panting, breathing deep. And, you know, I think I was like, there was like somebody blocking the path. And I was in my head, I'm like, hey, I should slow down. And then I'm like, grow some teeth. That's what I said on the inside of myself. I said, grow some teeth. And like when a lion's hungry, he eats. Like, you know, we have to be able to have that dominant male masculine energy to be able to get things done in the world. And so there is this, I would say I have an inner battle, to be completely honest. You know, like I do yoga, I meditate, I exercise, but I definitely have an inner battle, and it's not always peaceful. No, definitely not.
Well, the big thing that I was hoping eventually to change with my TEDx talk, which was censored, by the way, they never showed it. They would not put it out there. Was that, you know, you have this one, like, give it a first impression. So yeah, I know once I could see my enemy face to face, I could see it. This is where the love and kindness, being grateful is wonderful, but you got this dragon inside your head and it's eating you right now. It's going to dominate. It's going to eat you. Are you going to just kind of listen to that doctor saying, well, Mr. Miron, you probably got about, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 years, maybe if you're lucky. Are you going to listen to that? Or are you going to grab whatever you have in your hand and stab that fucker right in the throat? Just weaken it a little bit. It doesn't have to be like you have to kill it yet, but put it on its knees. Take a little bit of its momentum. Now, instead of just allowing this thing to overcome and tsunami over your whole life that you've worked so hard for, and this thing in my brain, like I was glad that it was in my brain so that my thoughts could hit it quicker. In my mindset, it's not in my pancreas or my testicle, it's in my brain. So even on a like speed of light timeline, it's hitting that tumor first. Anyway, to start the book that Nate helped me narrate was a quote from The Departed. Have you seen that movie, Damien? The Departed? It starts out with Jack Nicholson with Gimme Shelter playing with the Rolling Stones, and he just drops the epic quote. The context of the quote isn't in the best light, I will say, but the quote itself is wonderful, where it's, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. That's the exact same thing Buddha said. Be the change you wish to see in the world. So, I mean, we're living in, I think, a video game. And those that are able to get the cheat codes along the way of life, get those lessons figured out, we have the ability to manifest them almost instantaneously if we are able to kind of be on our own timeline. Like, time doesn't really exist. I don't believe it does. It's more about throwing an anchor out into the universe and then allowing life to pull you to that anchor. And that's what I did. I just said, no way. That's not it. I had a vision in that moment when he told me I was going to die. I was already seeing me throwing rocks into Lake Superior with my teenage sons. So I'm taking my vision over whatever fucking stats you just gave to me. That's not my stat line. Sorry, I get a little heated with that. I get a little heated.
Okay. That's the thing. Currently, it seems like society wants to throw down aggression. There's a reason aggression exists within us. It's a part of us, like it or hate it. And
Right.
the warrior knows how to use an appropriate amount of aggression. And so the nuance in this game of life and the game of change in becoming the next level of what you're meant to be is that balance of having the aggression to overcome the obstacles because life is freaking hard, but having the compassion for self and others to nurture those positive, softer elements. So, I mean, there are very few individuals, Kyle, who have the life experience and the triumph that you've experienced. And I love the fact that you love everything about your journey. I love that it's in my brain because it's just boom, boom. We're at ground zero. So
Yeah.
how in the hell can we find inner peace when our internal life is seemingly spiraling into an endless battle?
Zen meditation. Yep, Japanese Zen. That's how you do it, man. You just got to be still. You got to force yourself to be still. I get to a point of 21 breaths. That's my big thing. 21 breaths should take you 5 minutes. That means it's a super long inhale, super long exhale. I don't care about the sitting positions as much. I think a lot of people get hung up on that. It's more about get yourself in a room, no earpods, no nothing. Could be outside, nature, but 21 breaths I've found gets me to the same place that a Zen master would take 50 years to get to. It's just once you get to like 6 breaths, the thoughts start coming. Got to start over. 7 breaths, thoughts start coming. You got to start over. So it's taken me 2 years. Really, like it's taken me 2 years to get to a point where 21 breaths. But when I come out of that, I don't know what your thoughts are, guys, but when I come out of a meditation like that, I think of Christ. That's just my understanding, relationship I have, and it's not the just the mainstream. This is my brother. This is my guy. He's always there with me. We sit under waterfalls together in our dreams. It's just, and then, Buddha is there too. Krishna's there. I don't know Allah and I don't know others, but I know that I got a crew that is right here by my side that I can connect with at any given moment. And I will say, again, I'm a peculiar fellow. I tapped into my past lives. I was a former samurai. I have all the scars I could say to prove it. But they believed in Bushido. You've heard of Bushido, right, Damien? Yeah, Bushido, I said this on the TEDx talk. It's a way of living your life in honor and understanding that you could die in the next second. You could die in the next second from something. So you want to die a honorable man. Because in Japan, in the ancient days anyway, if you died a dishonorable way, or your entire family was shunned, like your life was the recurrence of the past ancestors, and in your last moment, you were dishonored, everything's washed away. And so I was always ready to die. Like, that's just a small part of this adventure, really. Like, death is the road to awe, actually. That's in the movie The Fountain. But there's nothing more amazing, probably, than leaving this vessel that we're kind of imprisoned in. There's a lot of love here. I'm not saying that. I mean, Earth is amazing. But where we're all going is, wow, I don't even have words.
Where we're going and where we came from. Yeah, it's like that infinite realm, whatever you believe, it's
yeah.
This life is too amazing, too miraculous, too magical for there not to be so much more that we can't comprehend with this vehicle.
I know.
And it's fun to think about. I love it. Whether you're dreaming or praying or meditating, or you're in the zone, you're on a run, and you're just in that, whatever that is, that ethereal, mental, spiritual, metaphysical space. There's something there. There's that ether. It's the hydrogen, the single atom, that it's like just this power, Well, and so, I'd love to ask you, just to evolve this question a little bit.
Sure.
When you think about the way that you've evolved as a person and in your life, the things that have formed you, the things that you've overcome, the things that you've learned about, the understandings that you've built within yourself, speaking about it directly, what role has spirituality played in your life and in your personal evolution?
Wow. Well, it's a loaded question there, Nate. And I will get to it, but can I go back and highlight something?
Keep going, man. Yeah, keep going. I mean, there's so many questions to ask. We keep this podcast to an hour, at least for the first 100 episodes or so. But we'll have to have you back on, man, because you're a big thinker and a writer, and you've got such a mega story, and you're a mega soul. So,
well, I appreciate it, but I want to go back to you we talked earlier about writing on paper, song lyrics. When you are in that holy space, that's where the best music you've ever created, wasn't it, Nate? Like, probably the best. after coming off of some real high that didn't have to have drugs, you're with God, and then you write it all down, and it doesn't matter what it hears to other people. That was your song from your life, man. That's what this is all about. I mean, we all have access to create our future, but we're doing it by holding the hand with God, painting that canvas. It's not just Nate, it's not just Damien or Kyle. It's this outer worldly essence that we're all a part of that gives us the abilities to change our own worlds. And honestly, I've been to, Japan, Thailand, India. I've seen all sorts of rituals and, worship and everything. But I mean, my biggest regarding spirituality was 2009, and I went on a pilgrimage to Scotland, which Nate and I could talk a whole episode on just that. But my main objective was to watch the Easter sunrise come over the North Sea at St. Andrew's Cathedral in St. Andrews. And guys, I mean, I was in a bad place. I was at that point where I was just saying, fuck you, God. I've done everything. I don't know what to do here. Like, you better show yourself right now. Today, it's your day. Easter sunrise. You better show up. And it was
better show up. That sun coming up over.
You bet. Now's your time. Now's your time to prove it. Like, who am I, this pesky human, calling out, the Lord right now just to do this? And I was overcome. I mean, just overcome. I can't even tell you the types of colors that came into me, but I could almost float. I could literally almost float. I can flat out say that I had a Google Earth ability to see St. Andrews. I could see it. I was just coming out and going like that movie Looper, I think it's called, where you can like loop places. I had extra sensitive hearing. I remember seeing a mom and her daughter coming out of a letter store, and she's holding a bag, and she literally, I could hear her 100 yards away saying, "Do you think Daddy's gonna like this?" What is going, like, something out of a bad Netflix movie? And then I was walking down this alley, and this fucking cat starts talking to me. I mean, it was like a Garfield cat saying,
"Yeah, what do you mean talking to you?"
I had the picture. Wait till you see this cat. It's got like a human face, and he's just like, "What's up? How you doing?" I'm like, "What's going on?" It faded a little bit later.
Are you dreaming, or are you talking about a real experience?
No, this was real.
Can you relate, Damien? Never have a talking cat appear?
Yeah, there was no psilocybin going here. This was an actual just walking through it. I saw it. I mean, it's massive cat too, way oversized. So,
did he like lasagna?
That's Garfield, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't. We didn't talk that much, but
jump in here because I'm sorry. If you can,
no, perfect.
I want to jump in here because fundamentally, I am a nihilist. I'm like, none of this shit matters. 100 years after we're dead, it's all gone, whatever. Maybe. And so I always have to fight against those feelings, which is part of that inner battle. So it's funny that we talked about aggression and obviously right now spirituality, and you got aggressive and you said, what the fuck, God? What's up? So how do you think that force of being a singular human with an ego, wanting some kind of catharsis, wanting something from an almighty intelligence of the universe, what role does aggression play in actually having one of those profound moments with a creator?
You know what? I think it was more of a commanding right now. If I am you and we're all one here, then you better fucking show up right now. If that, like, the question is role, I mean, we are all God, I think. I think we all are a form of God. So I was treating it more like, not my boss. He's not my boss. He's my family, and you must reveal yourself now. Or yeah, I would maybe have never believed in anything, maybe in that moment. I don't know. I really don't know what my life would have been if I didn't have that moment. It was my first.
This This is such a deep thing, when you're calling into, whether you're looking yourself in the mirror. Anybody ever look themselves in the mirror, like, talking directly to your own subconscious?
Sure.
But that you're calling directly to this unknown, but you're calling it out. It reminds me of when the scene in The Matrix, in the second or third one, where he's in the white room at the end. He's with the architect. There's a bunch of TVs on the wall, and he's talking directly to him. Or even Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey, and he's talking to Morgan Freeman. That these moments when you're looking directly, you're calling directly at whatever that is, and so you were in that moment.
Yeah, I truly believe we're in more like a Truman Show situation. I really do. I think this is more of a simulation, all of it. And there's characters that have certain abilities and powers, and they're just given that. But you have to almost go through like a Nintendo video game and level up and learn the skills and be able to get to that point. I really do. And thankfully, through sports, through life challenges, I got those skills really early on. I mean, you could call it destiny and fate and everything, but just like Terminator 2, Judgment Day, when Kyle Reese, he says, the future is not set. Fate is what we make for ourselves. That is a very big concept, because you think about every day. I mean, social media, it's great, but it's also damaging, because the grass is always greener mentality with wherever you go. And that really takes away people's own version of what their destiny wants to look like, because they're always comparing somebody else's high level this or this, and there's a forgetting to remember how powerful you are right here. And again, that's why I go back to your get messy, get better. That this is so important to understand, that we are all fucking messy. We're all trash bags, really, in many ways. And
there's a quote from the episode, "We're all trash bags."
We're dirty, we are. You could call it sinful, or you could call it karma. I mean, this is the part of the human condition. And what you guys are doing, again, you are helping people evolve. You're helping them level up, because some of these thoughts people don't even ponder. They don't even think, because they're so tied up in this. They're with the wrong person. They're in the wrong industry or profession. And I can't save them. We can't save anybody, guys, but we have to at least give someone an option to think differently. Have to. So yeah, I don't know what else to say there.
Damien, it's on your mind?
Yeah, no, I mean, to JJ's point, like looking at the phone and the distraction, I think that's where the aggression has to be. Like, well, I'm so sick of I'm so sick of the stuff I'm getting back that I got to use this anger in a way. To your point earlier, JJ, you like feel bad for people that are lashing out at the world. It's like, well, take that energy, because it's strong. Like someone that's pissed off and is ripping people down, no one's going to deny that is an intense, strong energy. It's like, if you could take that and apply it in that inner battle, what could you do? But it's like, it's the feeling realm. You're using your mind, but you're dealing with feelings, which is formless. There's no form to it. They can get expressed with words, with actions. But when you're playing that game up here, man, it's like you need a metaphysical balance. And that's where simplicity, I think, comes into it. And within writing, of like, what season of your life are you in? What age is it in? Is it the age of fear? Is it the reactive age? Is it the age of courage, where you're going to stand up to those impulses and those reactions and try to use them to strengthen the direction of your life? And it's so difficult, because when you're by yourself, no one knows. Your subconscious knows, and that's the most important thing. But to your point, Kyle, like, these are some questions people don't ask, and they're big questions. And if you ask too big of a question and you're not ready, your mind's just going to turtle. It's going to shell. So it's like finding that really sweet spot of, what's the question I can ask that will allow me to use the internal landscape of my mind, that will simultaneously allow me to make a little bit of progress, so I can move in a direction that feels more solid, and this doesn't help, because this almost resets you every time. There'll be somebody that's more attractive than you, that makes more money than you, that has more success than you. But again, like, that too is also an illusion, because you have no idea why they're posting all this stuff. Is it because life is so great and I want to share it? or is it because they feel like they're nothing deep down, and that external validation allows them to win that battle? So it's super tricky.
Well, and they've set this up to where you need 100,000 followers to make like huge money on it, but what the effect of what you guys are doing might not show up in dollars, views, likes, shares. It's these moments right now where the right person fucking hears that exact message that they need, that you might have just changed the whole universe. It's the whole butterfly effect. That's what you guys are doing. You're putting your essence and entity out there to the world. A lot of people, honestly, a very high percentage of people do not love themselves enough to be confident in getting in front of a screen and getting their exact message out, because they're probably scared of what they're about to say or what they really think. And that, to me, that makes me sad, because I've never lived like that. But to others, like, guys, we've all been through some shit. You got to go through some dark stuff to even feel a little bit of love, honestly, at that level.
Absolutely, man. And to play angel's advocate a little bit here, I hope and I do see that social media also does give us the opportunity to learn how to share, to learn how to speak. And some of the people that I know, because I have the fortune of being in South Florida, in Miami, where there's a lot of people that are very active on social media with big accounts. I meet people every day that have tens, hundreds of thousands of followers. I used to live in a building. It was a girl I'd get on the elevator. She had 1 million followers. She's a beautiful girl. But what I was speaking about is when people share their most vulnerable stories and their most authentic self online, that's when people connect. That's when people tune in. And that, I think, is being magnified, because, this every day there's another podcast starting, and some of them last and some of them don't. We're trying to be one of the ones that last. So far, so good. Be. And thank you. When I describe this show to people, obviously it's been in its own organic evolution since we started, but I describe it as we talk with people about where they are in life, how they got there, and where they're going, right? And so with you, we've talked a bit about your personal evolution up to now. I'd love to ask you, where do you see yourself evolving towards?
Such a loaded question, brother. That's
you can take it however you want to. Keep it light. But what are the things that you hope to achieve, or that you plan to achieve, or how does it feel for you now on the other side of some of the greatest struggles that a human being could face? And now it's like you have this, it's a new life. And I know you just moved again and things are going even better for you now. And you've got new chapters again. And life is a series of these evolving cycles. And so, when you think about it, what are some of these things? And obviously staying in a state of Bushido, we could all leave in this next moment. It's important to stay in a state of honor, because you've done some incredible humanitarian projects, talking about Operation Oi back in the day, and now the tomato farmers in Africa. I mean, you are involved in so many things. It's wild.
I now, for the first time ever, I want to evolve in a state of self-love. I really want to love myself. I've really put myself down, especially after cancer, just berating myself, seeing myself in the mirror like you're just looking at it and just saying, like, what a crippled old man, what a damaged human. But really, I am so ready to just love myself eternally, forever. And I know that's the frequency that'll make me heal, like, completely. And that's where I'll find my authentic, true, angelic self, is just purely loving myself. And I mean, not the selfish, gotta get the 7-pack abs, 7, 8, whatever. But just really loving every day. 12? So it's up to 12 now? We're evolving, 12 abs. That's it. That's my main goal now, self-love. Because that's loving my
ancestors. Your main goal. When you put that into practicality, not to try to steer this too directly, but I want you to plug some of your projects and your actual actions, because we haven't really touched on it. But from Operation Oi, where you got funds to feed children in schools in Southeast Asia, that's 10, 20, 15 years ago, and now you're sponsoring, or you built a sponsorship program, and there's some kids that are entrepreneurs now growing tomato. Like, I want to hear about some of these projects. If you don't mind sharing with our audience a little bit about, if you could just in a nutshell describe Operation Oi, and then describe what's going on now with the tomatoes.
I think anyone who can see that our time here is very short, and anyone that can understand their ability to make change has a duty, maybe, and a responsibility to dedicate energy and time of that life to a greater mission. And thankfully, I was guided to a project in 2008 now, that allowed me to assist 2 orphanages in Thailand with the ability to stay open. And it started from a tiny town in Marquette, or Upper Peninsula, Michigan, say Marquette. There was a Thai restaurant owner named Oi, and she dedicated literally all of her tips to these 2 orphanages outside of Bangkok, Thailand, to keep them open. Because in Thailand, unfortunately, if a child is not in school, they're usually sold to become prostitutes. So these, I'd say 60 kids total had nowhere else to go and would be in a lifetime of prostitution unless this angel in Marquette went over there every year and bought both of these schools a year's supply of food, year's supply of clothing, books, anything they needed. So I finally decided, like, could I go to Thailand with you and document this thing, photograph, and put together a video? And she was super hesitant because all that stuff in our system, the tax laws and all this, green card and certain things, that she was very hesitant to get me photographed behind the scenes. But ultimately, we came back. Excellent. We made a book. We made a cooking video. It was priceless. And we raised enough money just on that for her to sponsor a 3rd school. And that 3rd school now is forever open. So she's got 3 orphanages. So yeah, that was a big pat on the back. But again, I was just a channel. I used all my skills that God gave me to make it happen. And now this orphanage in Uganda right now, I don't know. Do you guys get all sorts of messages on Instagram for help, relief? People just reaching out all over.
I was on a bike ride this morning, and there was a guy on the corner, like he looked like he was a little hungover, but he said, "Ayúdame," which means help me in Spanish. But I said, and then he looked at me and he says, "I need help." And I said, "I need help too." I'm like, I don't know what to do in that moment. I'm not going to stop. I'm busy. And he looked fine. And there's a lot of people around. It doesn't need to land on me in that moment.
Sure.
but yeah, there's people need help.
They need help. So, Mabazi, his name is Mabazi. He reached out on Instagram, and he said, he saw my Instagram. He saw I was a believer or a spiritual person, and he reached out. He said a prayer for me. He just said, "I just want to pray for you right now." And will you accept? I said, "Yeah, thank you." And I said, "Could I pray for you for something?" And he said, "Well, yeah. I have one of my sons. He's in the hospital right now. He broke his leg, and the hospital won't let him go until I pay the fee to get him out." I go, scam, alert, red flags. So I asked him, "So what's his name? What's the child's name?" Just a little evidence, a little detective work. And he said, "David. His name's David." I said, "Oh, that's my dad's name. All right. Maybe I'll dive a little deeper on this." And I said, "All right, well, can you send me a picture of David just to see?" So sure enough, he sends this picture of poor David in the hospital bed, legs all healed up, just hot, sweaty, sad. And he goes, "Please, if you could help anything, he just wants to get back to his friends, but the hospital will not let him leave." So I said, fine, credit card payment, sent him $70. The next day, Mabazi sent over a video of David back with his friends, just saying, "Thank you, brother. I cannot thank you enough. So a guy like me, we talked a lot that day, just talking about what's going on here. So he was a father, his wife, they ran this orphanage of 30 kids by themselves in Uganda from a street shop that he had on the main stretch. I'm just thinking, how much money do you make a week? He's like, $30. So these 30 children, no parents, nothing, depend on this orphanage to go. And I started dedicating my energy and finances to this orphanage. And then got to a point, guys, where I just said, I can't donate anymore. Like, we all don't have endless money these days. Milk's $8. So I said, we got to start a business. You guys got to start something here to get you guys self-sustainable. And sure enough, tomatoes is a huge seller over there. So I sent them enough to at least to get the tomato seed plants to at least start putting these children to work. Not slavery, guys, but really giving each child a role in this process. And so, yeah, now they have 45 plants. They're not going to be able to quite do a business, but they have enough for their own food, which that would add up to. So, I mean, there's still a lot of work there, but again, I'm going to be with these guys.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I mean, that is amazing. I mean, I'm figuring out when to jump in and when not to, because you're a great speaker and you have some amazing stories to share. It's just so awesome to hear, from the story about Operation Oi, was what you called your filmographic journey with Oi over there, helping to document and see that process. And then also, the abundance that comes from teaching a man to fish, teaching these guys, helping them set up a tomato garden. They're providing for themselves, which is a beautiful thing, deriving the abundance from the earth, which is, money grows on trees, fruit, food, vegetables, tomatoes, what have you. $30 a week, that's nothing to live on. Raise an orphanage, help them build a business. That's the way forward. So there is so much more that we need to talk with you about, because we didn't even touch on the fact that you, for a number of years, ran the #1 wedding photography company in Michigan. And as well as your filmmaking journey, you made some political activism videos 5-10 years ago that caused a stink, trying to help this guy take care of his farm. They were trying to make this guy shoot all his pigs because they were a specific breed of pig. Crazy stories, but we got to wrap it up now. We're definitely going to do a part 2 with you, and I want, for our audience, for myself as well, for anybody watching, listening, where can people find your book? Are you still active? Is your assets available online?
Yes. If you're intrigued enough to go check out this cancer killing book, from my end, it's at 5millionbrains.com, the letter 5, or spell it out, 5millionbrains.com. And I have the ebook version in English, Hindi, and Spanish, all free. You could download it. And if you'd like to donate to the cause, then you get an audio book that's narrated by a certain stellar
J.J. Wolf in the house.
Yeah, he's in the house. But yeah, the whole concept, I believe, is that we can get 5 million brains switching from a worrier to a warrior mentality in regards to this cancer genocide, I would even call it right now. I truly believe that amount of frequency will shift the entire landscape of whatever cancer is right now. And I just want to end with, when I started this crusade with cancer, I could not have a night of sleep without this vision coming to my mind. And it was of a mother and daughter, young daughter, walking down a beach at sunset. And they're just walking, some sort of happy music played in the background. But the daughter looks up to the mom and says, "Mom, what's cancer?" And the mom looks down and says, "Oh, honey, that's been cured a long time ago. Why do you ask?" That's what I see in the future. Like, just like polio, just like things that were in the past. It's just cancer's been the most, and they don't really want it to let it go. And
we'll leave that cliffhanger for next episode.
thank you. Yes.
5millionbrains.com. Kyle Miron today. Damien, what's your last word?
Absolutely amazing, Kyle. Thank you for sharing your story and your energy with us. And I think it's important to get that out there to give people something to look at to go, oh man, that's a strong dude who knows what he's talking about. So listeners, check out the book, show some love, give him a follow, a like, and until next time, guys, keep growing.
Okay.
Keep growing. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.